The history of modern football is inseparable from the legendary figures of Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsène Wenger to men whose careers, philosophies, and personalities not only defined an era of the English Premier League, but also reshaped the global perception of what it means to manage a football club. Born just 8 years apart on opposite sides of Europe, Ferguson in 1941 in the industrial, working-class district of Govan in Glasgow, Scotland, and Wenger in 1949 in Strasbourg, France, a region steeped in both French and German culture. Their early lives were marked by modesty, discipline, and formative experiences that would shape their approaches to leadership, resilience, and success. Ferguson grew up in a tightly knit community of shipbuilders, learning the value of hard work, perseverance, and toughness, playing street football before rising through the ranks as a prolific striker in Scottish football. While Wenger developed a combination of intellectual curiosity and tactical awareness alongside a modest playing career in France, eventually realizing that his greatest impact on the game would come as a manager rather than a player. Both men brought their unique life experiences into their managerial philosophies, Ferguson with his fierce insistence on mental strength, discipline, and psychological edge, Wenger with his emphasis on education, holistic player development, and elegant, attacking football. Their paths converged in 1996 when Wenger took charge of Arsenal, beginning what would become one of the most fascinating and intense rivalries in football history. While Ferguson had already established Manchester United as the dominant force in English football, Wenger's arrival introduced a cerebral, technically refined, and stylistically revolutionary alternative. It challenged the status quo. Over the next 2 decades, their rivalry became a story of contrasts and complementarities: Scottish pragmatism versus French sophistication, fiery psychological management versus calm intellectual authority, tradition versus modernization, physicality versus finesse. Beyond mere competition, their duels on the pitch, transfer market, and press conferences created a narrative that captured the imagination of millions worldwide, influencing the style, culture, and global reach of English football. Yet, despite their differences and occasional tensions, both managers shared an unwavering commitment to excellence, a deep belief in youth development, an ability to adapt to evolving tactical landscapes, and a relentless drive for sustained success at the highest levels. The story of Ferguson and Wenger is therefore not only a story of rivalry, but also a story of mutual inspiration, innovation, and transformation, illustrating how 2 visionary minds can simultaneously compete and elevate an entire sport to new heights. Sir Alexander Chapman Ferguson was born on December 31, 1941, in the hard-working shipbuilding district of Govan in Glasgow, Scotland, a community defined by discipline, solidarity, and endurance, qualities that would later become central to his personality and leadership style. He was the son of Alexander Beaton Ferguson, a shipyard plater, and Elizabeth Ferguson, and grew up in modest circumstances during a period when post-war Britain demanded toughness and self-belief, attending Broomloan Road Primary School and later Govan High School while spending countless hours playing football in the streets and local parks, experiences that sharpened his competitive edge and deepened his love for the game. His football journey formally began when he joined Queen's Park in 1957 as an amateur striker, making his senior debut at just 16 years old. And although he struggled for consistency early on, he demonstrated resilience and a willingness to learn, traits that carried him through later spells with St Johnstone, Dunfermline Athletic, Rangers, Falkirk, and Ayr United. Where his most prolific period came at Dunfermline, he emerged as one of Scotland's deadliest goal scorers, netting an astonishing 66 league goals in 89 appearances and finishing as the Scottish League's top scorer in the 1965-66 season. Despite his talent, his playing career was marked by frequent moves and lessons in adversity, particularly at Rangers, where limited opportunities taught him humility and sharpened his understanding of squad dynamics, before he eventually transitioned into management at Ayr United as a player-manager, revealing an early obsession with discipline, preparation, and tactical awareness that distinguished him from his peers. His managerial path truly began at East Stirlingshire, where he famously asserted authority by dismissing the entire squad upon arrival, followed by a transformative spell at St Mirren, where he led the club from the Scottish Second Division to the First Division while building a reputation as a demanding and uncompromising leader. Though his controversial dismissal in 1978, despite success, proved to be a defining moment that fueled his determination rather than breaking it. That same year, Ferguson was appointed manager of Aberdeen, a club overshadowed by the dominance of Celtic and Rangers. And over the next 8 years, he orchestrated one of the greatest revolutions in Scottish football history by instilling belief, tactical discipline, and youth development, leading Aberdeen to 3 Scottish League titles, 4 Scottish Cups, and a historic triumph in the 1983 European Cup Winners' Cup, where they defeated Real Madrid in Gothenburg, followed by victory in the UEFA Super Cup against Hamburg, cementing Ferguson's status as one of Europe's elite managers and demonstrating his ability to conquer continental competition against footballing giants. His success at Aberdeen earned him numerous accolades, including multiple Manager of the Year awards, and brought him to the attention of Manchester United, who appointed him manager in November 1986 during a period of decline, hooliganism, and underachievement. And although his early years at Old Trafford were fraught with difficulty, cultural rebuilding, and intense pressure that nearly resulted in his dismissal, Ferguson remained steadfast in his long-term vision, emphasizing discipline, fitness, youth development, and a winning mentality, with the 1990 FA Cup victory acting as a turning point that restored belief and stability. From that moment onward, Ferguson built one of the most dominant dynasties in sporting history, transforming Manchester United into a global powerhouse through strategic recruitment, ruthless decision-making, and the cultivation of young talent, most famously through the class of '92, which included Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, David Beckham, Gary Neville, Phil Neville, and Nicky Butt, players who would define an era and embody the club's identity. Across nearly 3 decades at United, Ferguson demonstrated an unparalleled ability to evolve tactically and culturally, rebuilding successful teams time and again while managing iconic players such as Eric Cantona, Roy Keane, Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, and many others, and maintaining authority through his legendary hair dryer treatment, psychological insight, and unmatched understanding of human motivation. His achievements at Manchester United are staggering, including 13 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 10 Community Shields, 2 UEFA Champions League titles in 1999 and 2008, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup, 1 UEFA Super Cup, 1 Intercontinental Cup, and 1 FIFA Club World Cup, with the 1998-99 treble season Premier League, FA Cup, and Champions League standing as one of the greatest accomplishments in football history, immortalized by the dramatic last-minute comeback against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. A moment that symbolized Ferguson's belief that matches are never over until the final whistle. Beyond trophies, his legacy is defined by his mastery of leadership, his commitment to excellence, his influence on modern management practices, and his insistence on standards that extended far beyond the pitch, shaping generations of players, coaches, and clubs worldwide. His extraordinary contributions to football were recognized with a knighthood in 1999 for services to the sport, along with numerous honorary degrees, lifetime achievement awards, and inductions into the Scottish, English, and European Football Halls of Fame. Ferguson retired as Manchester United manager in May 2013 after winning the Premier League in his final season, leaving the club at the pinnacle of English football and concluding a managerial career that redefined success, longevity, and leadership. And in retirement, he has remained a revered figure in the game as a club director, author of best-selling autobiographies, and global ambassador for football, while also demonstrating remarkable personal strength in overcoming a life-threatening brain hemorrhage in 2018 from which he made a courageous recovery. And today Sir Alex Ferguson stands not only as the most successful manager in British football history, but as one of the greatest sporting figures of all time. A man whose journey from the shipyards of Glasgow to global immortality is a testament to vision, resilience, relentless ambition, and an unyielding will to win. Arsène Charles Ernest Wenger was born on October 22, 1949, in Strasbourg, France, and grew up in the small village of Duddenheim in the Alsace region near the German border. an area shaped by a blend of French and German cultures that deeply influenced his worldview, discipline, and intellectual curiosity from an early age. He was raised in a family that ran a bistro and automobile spare parts business, and it was above this family-run establishment that Wenger first absorbed the rhythms of football, watching local amateur players debate tactics, formations, and performances long into the night, experiences that quietly laid the foundations for his analytical approach to the game. Academically gifted, Wenger balanced his early love of football with strong studies, attending the University of Strasbourg, where he earned a degree in economics and later a master's degree, an educational background that would later set him apart from traditional football managers and contribute to his reputation as le professeur for his thoughtful, methodical, and forward-thinking demeanor. As a player, Wenger was a modest but intelligent footballer, operating mainly as a defensive midfielder or sweeper, spending his playing career with amateur and semi-professional clubs including Mutzig, Mulhouse, ASPV Strasbourg, and RC Strasbourg, where he made a small number of appearances in Ligue 1. Experiences that helped him understand the limitations of talent and the importance of organization, intelligence, and collective discipline over individual brilliance, recognizing early that his greatest impact would come as a coach rather than a player. Wenger transitioned into management soon after retiring, beginning as an assistant coach at RC Strasbourg before being appointed manager of AS Nancy in 1984 at just 34 years old, where he faced immediate challenges including relegation and limited resources, lessons that hardened his resolve and taught him adaptability, patience, and long-term planning. After a brief setback, Wenger's reputation began to grow at AS Monaco, where he was appointed manager in 1987 and quickly established himself as one of France's brightest coaching minds, leading the club to the Ligue 1 title in his first full season, winning the Coupe de France in 1991, and guiding Monaco to the final of the 1992 European Cup Winners' Cup, all while developing and managing talented players such as Georges Weah, who would later win the Ballon d'Or, and demonstrating Wenger's ability to nurture talent through trust, education, and tactical clarity. Following his departure from Monaco in 1994, Wenger embarked on one of the most unconventional and formative chapters of his career by moving to Japan to manage Nagoya Grampus, a decision that raised eyebrows in Europe but proved transformational, as he embraced Japanese culture, philosophy, and discipline, won the Emperor's Cup and Japanese Super Cup, and deepened his holistic understanding of football, nutrition, sports science, and player well-being, elements that would later revolutionize English football. In 1996, Wenger was appointed manager of Arsenal Football Club, a decision initially met with skepticism in England, where he was famously described by parts of the media as Arsène who. Yet his impact was immediate and profound as he modernized the club's culture by introducing advanced training methods, strict nutritional regimes, tactical flexibility, and a commitment to technical excellence, transforming Arsenal from a defensively rigid but aging team into one of the most elegant and progressive sides in world football. Wenger's Arsenal achieved historic success, winning the Premier League and FA Cup double in 1997-98 in his first full season, repeating the double in 2001-2, and producing one of the most iconic achievements in football history with the invincible season of 2003-04, when Arsenal went unbeaten throughout the entire Premier League campaign, a feat unmatched in the modern era, cementing Wenger's legacy as one of the game's greatest innovators. Under his stewardship, Arsenal won 3 Premier League titles, 7 FA Cups, a record during his tenure, and 7 Community Shields, while also reaching the UEFA Champions League final in 2006, narrowly losing to Barcelona despite playing much of the match with 10 men. A campaign remembered for Arsenal's defensive resilience and Wenger's tactical adaptability. Beyond trophies, Wenger's influence on football extended far deeper, as he became renowned for discovering, developing, and elevating players such as Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, Dennis Bergkamp, Robert Pires, Cesc Fabregas, Ashley Cole, Tony Adams, and many others, often identifying talent before it was widely recognized and refining it through patience, education, and belief. Wenger also oversaw Arsenal's move from Highbury to the Emirates Stadium, a period that demanded immense financial discipline and sacrifice. during which he kept the club competitive despite limited transfer budgets, consistently qualifying for the Champions League for 19 consecutive seasons. An extraordinary achievement that demonstrated his long-term vision, loyalty, and commitment to sustainability over short-term success. Philosophically, Wenger became synonymous with attacking football, technical purity, youth development, and ethical conduct, often engaging in intellectual debates about the laws of the game, refereeing standards, financial fairness, and the global future of football, while also enduring intense criticism. Rivalry most notably with Sir Alex Ferguson and later challenges as the Premier League evolved with massive financial investment from rival clubs. After 22 years at Arsenal, Wenger stepped down in 2018 as the club's longest-serving and most influential manager, leaving behind a legacy that permanently reshaped English football style, professionalism, and global appeal. Following his managerial retirement, Wenger transitioned into an executive and advisory role with FIFA, becoming Chief of Global Football Development, where he is focused on improving youth development structures, coaching education, player welfare, refereeing standards, and the global calendar, as well as advocating innovations such as improvements to the offside law and expanded opportunities for football development worldwide. Widely respected for his intelligence, integrity, and humanitarian outlook, Wenger has received numerous honors, including induction into the Premier League Hall of Fame, multiple Manager of the Year awards, and recognition as one of the most influential football thinkers of all time. And today Arsène Wenger stands as a towering figure in the sport. A man whose journey from a small Alsace village to the pinnacle of world football reflects a lifelong commitment to knowledge, evolution, and the belief that football, at its best, is not only about winning trophies, but about beauty, education, and progress. Both Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsène Wenger share an extraordinary number of parallels in their careers and lives. Yet they were also fierce rivals for more than a decade in one of football's most intense managerial eras. Born just 8 years apart, Ferguson in 1941 in Glasgow and Wenger in 1949 in Strasbourg, they both emerged from modest, working-class backgrounds that instilled in them values of discipline, resilience, and ambition. Both started as players in smaller clubs, with Ferguson excelling as a striker in Scottish football and Wenger as a midfielder in France. And both quickly realized that their true calling lay in management rather than on the pitch, shaping a generation of players and football philosophies. Their rivalry began in the English Premier League after Wenger joined Arsenal in 1996 and Ferguson had already established himself as the dominant force at Manchester United, marking the start of an epic contest that went far beyond trophies and results. It was a clash of ideologies, cultures, and footballing philosophies. Ferguson represented the hard-nosed, results-driven, relentless competitive mentality typical of Scottish football, with a focus on mental toughness, youth development, and psychological warfare, often using mind games to gain an edge. Wenger, in contrast, brought continental sophistication, an emphasis on technical skill, attacking football, sports science, nutrition, and player welfare, transforming English football's approach to training and lifestyle. Their rivalry was defined by both mutual respect and occasional tension, with Wenger famously refusing to shake Ferguson's hand after certain matches, and Ferguson openly acknowledging Wenger's brilliance while asserting his own dominance in English football. On the field, their teams produced some of the most memorable moments in Premier League history, including Arsenal's unbeaten Invincibles season of 2003-04 and Manchester United's treble-winning campaign of 1998-99, with matches between the two clubs often deciding titles, shaping transfer policies, and capturing global attention. Both men were deeply committed to youth development, with Ferguson's class of '92 and Wenger's nurturing of Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, Cesc Fabregas, and others, highlighting their shared belief that the future of a club depends on educating and empowering young talent rather than relying solely on expensive transfers. Beyond the tactical and managerial aspects, both were visionary leaders who revolutionized club culture, Ferguson by creating an unbreakable winning mentality at Manchester United and Wenger by modernizing Arsenal's approach to diet, training, and professionalism while overseeing the construction of the Emirates Stadium. Despite different temperaments, Ferguson, fiery and commanding, Wenger intellectual and philosophical, they both cultivated extraordinary longevity at elite clubs, with Ferguson managing United for 27 years and Wenger managing Arsenal for 22, achieving unparalleled consistency in domestic and European competition. Their rivalry also extended to media narratives, with journalists framing each match as a psychological battle as much as a football contest, and both managers using wit, intelligence, and sometimes subtle provocations to influence outcomes and public perception. Ultimately, Ferguson and Wenger's careers are linked not just by competition, but by shared excellence. Both redefined the role of a football manager. Both left legacies of tactical innovation and player development. Both commanded immense respect globally. And both demonstrated how leadership, vision, and adaptability can transform clubs and entire leagues. Their rivalry, while intense, was a driving force that pushed both men to achieve greatness, making their careers inseparable. In the story of modern football, the legacy of Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsène Wenger is not measured solely in trophies, records, or statistics, though those alone are extraordinary. Ferguson's 13 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups, 2 UEFA Champions League trophies, and his unmatched longevity at Manchester United. Wenger's 3 Premier League titles, 7 FA Cups, the unbeaten invincible season, and his transformative impact on Arsenal's culture and the Premier League as a whole. Their true legacy lies in the philosophies, innovations, and standards they established, which continue to shape football decades after their respective retirements. Ferguson taught the world the power of mental resilience, relentless ambition, and the capacity to rebuild dynasties over and over, demonstrating that leadership is as much about psychology, loyalty, and adaptability as it is about tactics or talent. Wenger, on the other hand, revolutionized English football's approach to training, nutrition, player welfare, and technical education, proving that elegance, intelligence, and long-term vision could coexist with competitive success. Their rivalry, though intense and sometimes dramatic, elevated both men, forcing Ferguson to confront new tactical challenges and Wenger to confront the relentless pressure of sustained excellence. Matches between Manchester United and Arsenal became more than contests. They were philosophical clashes, tests of discipline, strategy, and willpower, moments that defined careers, enthralled fans, and influenced a generation of players and managers. Beyond the rivalry, both men shared an extraordinary capacity for vision, patience, and mentorship, creating teams that became iconic not just for what they won, but for how they played, developed players, and influenced football culture. Today, Ferguson and Wenger are more than just rival managers. They are monumental architects of modern football, pioneers whose innovations, values, and personalities have left indelible marks in the sport. Their journeys from the shipyards of Glasgow and the villages of Alsace to global stadiums and footballing immortality illustrate the power of dedication, intellect, and leadership in shaping not only winning teams, but also the game itself. The story of their rivalry, cooperation through competition, and mutual elevation is a testament to the profound influence that visionary managers can have, proving that football, at its highest level, is as much about ideas, culture, and human inspiration as it is about goals and trophies. Ferguson and Wenger's legacies endure not only in the history books and record tables, but also in the ethos, philosophy, and ambition of every manager, player, and club striving to reach the heights they achieved, making their intertwined journeys a defining chapter in the narrative of world football.